Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rediscover Human Podcast, EP09, with me, Tim Sheaf, and my good man, Big Chief, Josh.
How's it?
Yes.
Are we 9 already?
It is 09.
Wow, it's
Because I
impressive.
actually put it in, when I upload to Buzzsprout, I put in Series 1, Episode 9, and my intention is that after 10, we go to Series 2. And we come with something new and different.
Yeah, okay, guests,
Basically.
Yeah, okay,
so
cool.
we've got one more and then we'll see. No promises yet. My hair's looking good today. For those on the YouTube, I'm not covering my face with the mic this time. I did wash it with my own urine a few days ago, so that's probably why.
That's the key.
For those that listened last episode. But today's episode, anyway, we're going to get into it. Last weekend, I went to Amsterdam. I travelled, I flew, I put my face mask on. I covered my mouth, I kept my nose out, I'll be honest.
Did you have to wear the face mask in the airport?
In the airport and on public transport. So I just had my nose out and just breathed through my nose the whole time.
Yeah.
It's a load of, it's a bit of nonsense in my eyes. Anyway, I travelled, I went to Amsterdam and did the Strongfit Seminar, a weekend of intense strongman training with biomechanical intellect applied. Because that's the thing is what you're doing, I'm doing strongman training. It just sounds like, I hear how people will hear it when I say that. Like if I'm seeing a girl or something and she's like, what you been up to? Oh, I'm doing strongman training. It's like, oh, this ego guy trying to just make big muscles or something. And it's not about that, is it?
Yeah, definitely not.
It's like what Strongfit offer in that world is so different. And they're kind of predominantly, it was mostly CrossFitters that were at that camp. For those that don't know, Strongfit is a guy we follow on Instagram. We follow him closely. We've talked about him in previous episodes, who has philosophy on training that is we think is very forward thinking, and it aligns with the way we're trying to train. When we apply the principles, it's very principle driven. We feel good when we do that, and we mix in that with the WEC method training. So I went to get my understanding and knowledge. Josh has got his training template, right? How did you first, let's set that up. How did we first discover Strongfit?
So through a friend introduced me to a guy called Andrew Calendish, who's one of the Strongfit coaches in the UK.
Yeah.
I think he's like the main one, and he was at the seminar, right?
Rugby and...
Yeah, he's a rugby player, yeah. So just speaking to him, and he put me on to Strongfit's Instagram, and I was kind of dipping in and out. And then when we started training and you started teaching me about the biomechanics and introducing me to WEC, all the Strongfit stuff started clicking for me massively. And then I was like, whoa, actually. And I think out of everyone in that arena, I think a lot of people are doing amazing stuff. But just for me personally, I really resonate with what those guys are doing. You know, they seem to go, not that the other guys don't go really hard in the gym, but like that, the way they train with that intensity, it just appeals to me a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, that out of everything we're looking at the moment, for me, Strongfit is the thing that resonates with me the most.
And unfortunately, you couldn't make it because you were getting your passport renewed. And by the time that actually made it, flights had gone up, and it just
wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't meant to be for that one. But I managed to go and secure the knowledge that I could bring back. So I'm here to relay the main key takeaways that I got from it. But before I flew to Holland on the Friday, and I stayed with a guy. His house, amazing the internet is and everything. So a few weeks ago, I got an email on iam@humantimothy.co.uk from a guy saying, can you come on my podcast? And I was like, let me check. And he sent a trailer for his podcast, and it was a really well edited trailer. And I thought, oh, this kid's legit. And in the video, he was doing functional patterns. He was talking about emotional work and other things. And I thought, this kid calls himself Injured Dumbass. It's a bit of an odd name, but I get what he's saying here. And I could tell he's on that same journey of trying to heal his body. And he's kind of young. And I thought, let me go on this guy's podcast. I bet it'd be a good chat. And anyway, he introduced me to a few things within that podcast I hadn't discovered, because he's on the journey and he's going down different rabbit holes than I've been down, and offered me some things. And he offered me something that was really insightful. I mentioned in the last one that we'll talk about it when the time's right. Still waiting for not there yet. But anyway, so this guy, we connected, and he said, if you're ever in Holland, let me know. If you're ever in Amsterdam. I said, well, I'm actually there in a couple of weeks. He said, well, I don't just make stuff up. If you want to stay with me, you can stay with me. So the one guy I chatted to recently that offered me a place to stay, I ended up going, having a place to stay at his. He picked me up from the airport, went to the beach. I gave him a rope as a gift, taught him the rope on the beach. We swam in the ocean, talked about, he's really into light as healing and getting light right to not cause problems. You know, blue light releases cortisol and went into all that. So I learned a lot from him this weekend. So that was the Friday anyway. We had a good night. We actually went out. The bars were all open. He lives in a town just next to Amsterdam called Haarlem, and it's absolutely beautiful, and people were really relaxed, and the bars were all open, and we were sat people watching in the bars.
Could you go inside, or you sitting outside?
Yeah, it was people sitting inside. We finished the night, sat in the bar, and there was this, like, party of girls on 2 tables, and like we were sat in the bar drinking, got some fries and stuff. It was like it was so.
I can't believe the UK, like how.
It was so amazing to witness how relaxed they are compared to like how tight everyone is in England about the whole thing, and how much they swerve each other. And people in all the shop, like you go into a supermarket and they would wash the handles, but no one was wearing masks in the supermarkets, and they were friendly. When I was traveling, there were like the odd Asians dressed in hazmat suits, like, you know, fully like like this is
like Breaking Bad style.
Yeah, full on Breaking Bad style. These big hazmat suits. It was so weird to see, and I was just there like taking my mask off. Anytime I saw someone else without a mask on, I'm like, right, I don't need mine on. But the flight was fine. I was supposed to do a 14-day quarantine when I arrived, but they sold me a flight 3 days apart. So it's like they can't. Where's the enforcement? I don't understand. Same thing on the way back anyway. But anyway, Saturday morning, I went to one of the reasons that I connected with it actually was we did a sandbags. The first Strongfit session we ever did, you did from the template, had sandbag squats in it. Mm-hmm. And as I've mentioned a lot, inner ankle pain is one thing I get, and that seemed to really help it when I did the sandbag squats, because it puts you on the internal chain, it strengthens your internal, which is the inside of my ankle. It seemed to help when I did them. So when I got there, one of the questions was, well, that's one of the reasons I was there, was because it helped that. But at the same time, I noticed my lower back would start to hurt when I did too many sandbag squats. Mm-hmm. So that's why I've been training them a bit less lately. And the first thing we did then was sandbag squats. And they got us to do a minute of sandbag squats. And one of the principles they have is no pacing. You go as hard as you can from the go. Yeah. And that's so different. They say CrossFitters are all comfortable in their pacing zone. Mm-hmm. But if you want to grow, if you want to be the person that you're trying to be tomorrow, you want to be them today, you have to do the things that the guy you're trying to be does. Yeah. You can't just they talk about that. The session you're doing today is going to say the same guy unless you're doing the sessions that the guy you want to be is doing, easily. So you got to start by doing those sessions. So you go all out. And this says, anyone back hurt? And quite a few of us put a hand up, and they were like, right, stop trying to think about form. Let your body. We need your body to find tension. And so I realized how much I think about form since getting conscious and on the journey of biomechanics and doing things with correct form. When you squat properly, your feet should be parallel and your knees should come out this way and your back stays straight. So since being aware of that, mm-hmm. like my ego going, this is how you should do your technique. That's not how the body wants to naturally. If I just lift without thought, or before I even applied that, your body finds tension the way it's built, the way it's designed, so it's levers and anchors. The muscles are kind of like levers from the joint to the next joint. But when you like straighten your spine and put your knees this way and your feet in, you're affecting how it evolved as you grew up as a human to find tension. Mm-hmm. So I relaxed my feet and didn't stop them being square in and let them be duck-footed, which is what I'm trying to avoid. But actually, if that's how it finds tension, that's what it's got to do for now. You can still correct it over time with the openers and stuff. But for now, I relaxed my feet so they were out, did the sandbag squats again, and my lower back didn't hurt. And I was like, oh, so it's like my own mind is like making me think about form when the body just can find the form by itself. Yeah, that doesn't hurt it. And I was like, within the first thing that we did of the day, I got answers. That's what I was there for. I was like, I wanted to know why my lower back hurts when I do the sandbag squats. It's fixed one thing, but what about this thing? Mm-hmm. So that within the first thing, without even have to ask, we got that. And we did 3 rounds of sandbag squats, all out from the go. But in the last 2 rounds, we did nose breathing. No, not nose breathing, but we did breathing in on the way down and breathing out on the way up. Then we reversed it, breathing out on the way down, breathing on the way up. And you see how different that makes your capacity to do, and like you burn out so much quicker. I can't remember which way round it is. Probably out on the way down. I'm not sure. But one way round, you fatigue within like 30 seconds and your pace slows down. The other way round, when you work with the breath, you can go the whole way at full intensity. So that was really cool to see. And another principle that we learned really very straight away was they like to apply constraints rather than objectives. So his example was 3 + 2 = 5. And 3 + 2 always equals 5. Mm-hmm. But 5 doesn't always equal 3 + 2. 5 can equal 4 plus 1. So we set a goal. We live this of like, we're chasing an objective like 5, but it doesn't always equal 3 plus 2. So it's like you could tell someone do 12 squats and that's an objective. Now that doesn't say anything about the form, about what muscles are worked, about the intensity. So they rather set constraints. So they're like, you're going to do 1 minute's worth of squats. You're only going to breathe through your nose. You're going to try and feel your glutes when you do it. So then you're thinking about that as the intention. You've got the nose breathing, the intensity is set for you. And then it's just on you to do the work. So it gives a much more direction to what you're trying to do than to just try and hit 12 squats.
Yeah, so you could have 2 people side by side, both doing a minute's worth of squats.
Yeah.
And one person could just go hell for leather.
Yeah.
And maybe do, 30 squats in a minute, one
Yeah.
every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Just bang them out. But might not, say the goal of the minute's worth of squat is to create hypertrophy.
Yeah.
You get someone else that is like contracting their muscles more during that set. They might do half the number of reps.
Yeah.
But they'll hit that goal of
Get
hypertrophy.
more out of it. Yeah.
Even though they've done less reps.
Yeah.
So is that the sort of concept they're looking at?
Yeah, exactly. And it's trying to use your body as the tool and set the boundaries so that we can make your goal happen rather than like 12 squats. What's your goal? Is to have a stronger body, right? 12 squats might not serve it if you don't do them right. Yeah. So then it's like applying this nice criteria to help you find that. So constraint train. And then he goes deep because he talks about how science is more this. Like science, like supplement company will like give people a grant if they can prove that this will help something, right? Yeah. So they set an objective to help. So then they're chasing the objective to prove that this does this, but it doesn't say what else it does. It's not like the constraints of being honest or something, It's, so that was something we learned very quickly. And we did that session with the sandbags. And then we did some pec stick stuff, the torque stick to try and activate the pecs. We did oblique openers actually, where the oblique is kind of the center of the whole internal chain, and it's like below your belly button, and it was to activate that and keep that activated while you're breathing in, and so you can set. We did like 30 minutes of oblique openers where you put like a 20 kilo plate on your oblique, and you're just breathing in and out, laying down, keeping that. Have you done that session at home?
Yeah, I've done that because that's one of the obliques openers.
They share
they've got it on YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube. And that was really cool. And I felt emotional, like some like tears come up and stuff, because you're like, it's stored in the psoas in this region, isn't it? All around here, there's a lot of emotion stored. So it's, and he said he'd had at least 20 women get their periods back from the oblique openers. And he gets people that have all sorts of emotions come up when they do that. And it's so interesting how it all ties in with where we store a lot of our emotions in that same part. And that's what stops us being athletic at the same time. When it gets jammed up, it stops us. It ranges how deep we can breathe into the lower part of our abdomen and our diaphragm, down there.
Oh, we 100% store emotion in our body. That's and that's something that I've heard him touch on in certain podcasts, but it's almost as if he doesn't want to go too deep on it. Like maybe he's still exploring it.
So he actually said that, and he said he's never going to share that information.
Oh, really?
Because he says that's a kind of he doesn't want to open. He was like, if you have like a CrossFitter who's never like faced their emotions and some childhood traumas, and suddenly it opens and 3 a.m. they're calling you up saying they're going to jump off a bridge because they don't know how to deal with emotions that you've just released because you've done some work with like some body work. So I completely get that. I think we're coming from a different angle of like, we're more of that crowd where we're into healing and like natural medicines,
the holistic
health side, where we're like, let's dig into that, but he's more of like athletes who just want to be better athletes and maybe don't want to face that. So he's rather not do that kind of side of things. So
turning up to like improve your snatch and going home having resolved all your family trauma.
Yeah, and breaking up with your family. Or like, so that was really interesting to see, because he's so deep and metaphysical on so many realms. And then the afternoon we did sled work. So we did sled pushers, but it was like you push, step forward, push, step forward, push. Mm-hmm. So you're really trying to push from the pec. And use the internal chain.
And you stood more upright for that with the like long stick and the prowler.
The long stick on the prowler, exactly. Yeah. And then we did rope pulls back. Oh no, we did sandbag walks actually, heavy sandbag walks. And again, I'd feel my lower back a bit, and they're like, go heavier. They'd keep telling you to go heavier, because if it's too light, your body will have a compensation pattern, or your mind will say, this is the form we want to do. at a certain weight, it's so heavy that your body has to do what it has to do to survive. So then the muscles that are meant to do the job, the bigger job will kick in. So it's like people use their like what's the outside, the glute min or what, the medius, or the stabilizer muscles or the external muscles on the outside of the body. And someone might not be able to work their glutes, and that's the stabilizer muscles doing the job of the glute. But if you have a weight that's so heavy, eventually the muscle that's doing the wrong job, the stabilizer will just fail because it's not strong enough to do such a big job, and the muscle that's supposed to do the task will kick in. But the key is that you use natural world obstacle, or like a natural obstacle like a sandbag. Although I guess why it's not that, but it's much more natural than a barbell. So, and it sits inside your column so that the way you carry it is more natural.
So just relating that back to me, I know when we do like the 50-meter sandbag walks, and say we've done it with 100 kilos before, right? And I'll start the walk and my feet will be fairly straight, like, going in a straight line forward. By the time I hit 30 meters, my feet are so wide, I'm like wobbling along. So they would say to start heavier, so you start walking like that. Yeah,
it depends. I guess it does depend what your goal is with it, but they're more like, a lot of people have lower back pains when they're carrying the sandbag, and it's because they're kind of like sticking their belly forward too much, and then you need to like let your lower back kind of round to get the obliques turned on. And if your obliques aren't turned on, then your lower back's working too hard and whatever. So it's kind of like whatever weight forces your obliques to engage to help support everything else that's going on. So, I mean, it's not the correct form to walk with your feet out when you're not in that mode, but like while you're carrying that obstacle, it's more about getting your spine to be a more stable position. Whereas when you're too light, you have that compensation pattern, and then it will just stress a muscle that doesn't want it. They had a guy doing sandbag squats with it in front rack, and his knee would wobble in, and they made him go heavier, and his knee would wobble in, and they're like, keep going, and eventually it stopped wobbling in. And it was like, whoa, like, because the muscle that was like pulling in eventually fatigued, and the muscle that was supposed to do the job did the right job. So it was just interesting that their philosophy is like, well, the main key is like, use a more natural object, which is strongman objects, right? And then go heavier until or do more reps until you fatigue the muscle that's trying to do the job it's not meant to, and the real muscle has to kick in. So the bigger muscles, the glutes, the pecs, whatever, have to kick in. Eventually, we're doing like sandbag bench press, and it was so amazing how much more I felt my pec on that than like if I do press ups, I don't really feel my pec, and my shoulders come down, and like, but with that, it was just really cool to feel, and they do help you have the intention of feel that and stuff. So that it's cool the way they cue it, and it's basically, he says, like, a lot of people come in and they think they've got a hip problem or a knee problem, and it's like, no, you've got a barbell problem. It's not your knee's fault, it's the barbell. And so it's like when you go back, you can start to correct these issues, strengthen the body the right way with the natural obstacles.
It's so funny you say that. So my friend Tom, who we took yesterday doing a strongman session with us, and he's done like Ido Portal's sort of like online course and stuff like that, and a few other bits and pieces. And his mobility is insane. He's like really good at doing all those like floor movements, but he always gets injured.
Okay.
And he was real tentative yesterday when we were starting to do the strongman session, but he's just, his type of personality, he just gets after stuff. He goes for it. So he just got stuck in, and he messaged me this morning. He's like, I feel great. My shoulders feel amazing. And
there you go. Anyone that tries it.
And that's what I mean. You can tell it just makes you stabilize. It makes all these little muscles that you don't normally work with the barbell. They can just stay switched off the whole time. You've got it. Every muscle's activated while you're working.
I think it's such that because the two things there are with the barbell, because it's such a thin bar and it weighs so much that the body's a bit confused and there's slack in the system. So it's hard to, unless you really know good form, most people lift a barbell and they're not engaging all the muscles in the whole chain to get it to go. Whereas you give average Joe a sandbag or an Atlas stone and it's in between the two shoulders, it forces all the internal chains to just, and we've said it 100 times, but it does, doesn't it? And that's probably what your friend felt as well.
100%. And I think with the barbell as well, like, a lot, like we've mentioned this before, but a lot of people go to the gym and people using the barbell, you get bodybuilders and they're using the barbell to target specific muscles. And if you're trying to hypertrophy a specific muscle, then that's great, do that all day. But if you're going into the gym and that's not your goal, is to like, you know, hypertrophy, you know, a certain part of your back or whatever, and you're just copying what that guy's doing because he's the biggest guy in the gym, the strongest guy in the gym, then it doesn't really make sense for just like functional strength. You know, you want to be using more of your body and doing the strongman movements like farmer's carry, yoke carry, overhead yoke, sandbag carries, all these things. They force you to use that sort of more functional strength to activate more things, and it's got way more crossover into everyday life. Sports and
training, everything.
And that's another thing as well is, you know, our friend Harry, who's a professional rugby player, he started doing the strongman as a, you know, seeing us doing it, started training with us, and it's just resonating with him so much. You can see how that is going to help him, you know, go and be a beast on the field to a way greater extent than all the barbell lifting he's been doing for the last few years.
There's just no crossover with barbell, and like, not enough, and like ragging a guy in front of you compared to like lifting an Atlas stone is far more applicable, I think, and like
100%
yoke carries and stuff. So that was and then we finished with the prowler at the end. We did the pushers out, and then we did rope pulls back in, and that was tough. We did 3 rounds of that, and then just to finish off, we did on the concrete outside. We pushed the sled or the prowler, same thing, right? Sled, and we just all gung ho. They're like, the key is to not let it stop. The key is to keep running as long as you're pushing. And it was like a long, probably like 150, 200 meters. You had to push it. It was a long distance. Yeah, maybe 150. and they're like, you want to go early because you just keep watching people die. It's just demotivating. So like, but I just let people go. His daughter had to go and smashed it. His daughter's a beast. She's like 14.
What weight did you have on the prowler?
I think there was no weight. Or there was
200 meters is a long way to go with it.
Yeah, it was either that and it was like uneven kind of floor, or it was like a 220s or something. I can't remember. Maybe, yeah. And then I went and I think I pretty much did the best there. It's not a competition, but I was able, because of the WEC method stuff, this is what I'm saying. It's like, I've got like the head over foot and the pulsing to keep the drive going. It wasn't like I'm just trying to like push and the muscles slowly get tighter. It was like this like explosive moment. You know, like if you see someone in the NFL do a tackle with their chest, boom, they're like to block someone coming in. There's a moment where they plant their feet and jolt their body. And I was applying that to it, and I managed to keep it going and pretty much ran the whole way out. And then it stops. And you like step out of it and your legs just flipping collapse. Legs just turn to jelly after that.
Were you on the lower handles? Because, you know, prowlers normally on one side, they've got like a low handle. Then on the other side, they normally have a higher handle.
It was the 2 beams up, and you just push and just charge. But it was wicked. And the point was like no pacing. You just go all out the whole time. And it was to kill us. And going back, like I was out for like half an hour. I just like sat down and lay down for a bit, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get back now. And then eventually I came to, and I managed to get on the subway and get back to my friends, and I actually felt amazing. I actually felt buzzing. Like when you go that intense, and you're like, raw. I guess you and that's his whole thing, right? It's like you go from flow state, which is like, I think that's parasympathetic, into the sympathetic fight, and then flight, and then freeze. And then if you rest, you can go back to flow. And it's like he has this whole theory with the arc.
Well, when you train like that, it's almost like a meditation, because when you're on that prowler push and you're gunning for it, and you can feel the lactic acid building in your legs, and there's no thought process going on. Your brain just switches off because everything's just like keep going. So you're completely in that moment. And I think you almost get like a break from your brain during the training session. And then, like he talks about as well, is you build up that lactic acid, and then that gives you pyruvate as a more easily accessible carbohydrate source to then fuel additional training or anything with oxygen post that session.
Oh, right. Yeah, it was felt good after, like dopamines or whatever's going around. But that, I was like, because all the sessions we've done, you've said like, oh, the last 2 minutes is to kill you. You do 2 rounds, and the plan is to only finish 1, and you can't do the second one, basically. And now I get that. Now I really get that intensity. And then that night went back to Mathias to stay with him, and he was gonna. It was a Saturday day. He had this ayahuasca chocolate called Choco Bliss, and he was going to do it in the daytime. And I got back and he hadn't done it, and he was like, I was thinking maybe we could go halves on it.
Yeah.
And he had 4 pieces. He's like, maybe we do 2 each. And I was just, some days you're in such a mood and you're just like, I'm not going to say no. I just didn't feel like saying no, even though like the like logical, rational mind was like, no, I need to rest. Like, why am I going to do ayahuasca like tonight? And I was just like, yeah, it seemed like, you know, if we half the dose between us, it's not too bad. I'll just see what I was like, I'm just going to trust this and just go with it when it comes about like that. So we ended up doing these 2 pieces of chocolate, thinking it would be like a little trip, and like just kicked in and kept kicking in and just went much further than I'd anticipated. But so with Mathias, he does quite a lot of like his own body work, and we a practice called TRE, and we both just lay down for like half an hour, 45 minutes, and then just started like shaking my body, and started to like visuals started to come in my eyes, and I started to feel, and I've had it with mushrooms before, where I'm able to feel really well internally connections between like joints and muscles or ligaments, and I can feel when there's damage, and my body can kind of find a rhythm where it's like either vibrating or pulsing or like tribally like stamping or something like that, where it's helping like the connection. It's like there's a little mini guy welding the joints or the tears together with the heat of the motion and the gentle weight, whatever's on it. And so I ended up doing like 3 or 4 hours of both of us just like going through these patterns of different body parts, like old injuries, finding them and just like reestablishing these connections. And I'd have like my eyes closed and I'd be like laying a weird position on my shoulder or something, and within like I'd see within like your inner imagination or whatever, you can see, you know, when your eyes are closed and you can see colors, especially with psychedelic stuff, it would be like dark or like sharp or like skulls or something, and my breath would be like kind of hard and like panicky in that position, but I'd just go into it, and I would just trust the body. It was doing itself. I was just going with it and not stopping it. And then eventually it would like, there would just be this build and build and build, and then there'd be like a release when like color would come flashing through, like flooding through, and it wouldn't be like a complete release that thing is healed, but it was like it shed a skin of trauma, or like shed a layer of like blocked, like it was like blood or oxygen just got flooded back into an area that it didn't have it before. Yeah. And so I'd just go around exploring my body, and I'd have it would go emotional. So like some places like I'd start to cry or like sob, or you know, I'd be in a position and my body would start sobbing, and I could tell that there was some trauma locked there from like one time when you got told off in school, or your parents, you know, hit you or something like that for something when you're just a kid and you're just an innocent kid and you're like upset, that it locked, some muscle associated with that got locked, and it was like I'd have these emotional things come up, but there would be no memory, there'd be no story attached to it, and I was like, it's just in the body, it's just this muscle has got this emotion stored within it, and it's like I maybe, you know, this is just where I was, what it felt like. It was like I don't necessarily need to access the memory of what caused it. I just need to release the emotion from my body by feeling it, you know. And so I'd go to these different positions, turn my head left, turn my head right. I'd lie on the floor like a baby, like on my back, on my front, lift my hips up, and I'd feel like my lower back connecting. We'd stand up, and we'd like, and he started to get into it as well, where we're standing up and he's just like pulsing through the body and like slowly like twisting, and like you just open it, or your fascia is just like getting really warm and releasing. And there was like, my ankles really liked it when I'd like clap them together. It felt like scratching an itch, and just like just the bone on bone, or the, you know, it just felt really like there was stored energy that wasn't flowing, and it helped to release it. And then my hamstrings really liked like hands-on massage, so like different parts of the body like different releases. And it was just so interesting. And I think it might have been something, the fact that I was at this guy's house. Like if you're at home or you're with friends you know better or something, your brain might, because the body will bring an emotion up, and the brain is going to relate it to like someone in the room or something. Because I was in an environment where I had no memories there, and I was out of my zone, and I'm living here where I'm not as close to my family here. It was just completely like a pure experience where there was no memories or anything came up. It was just oh, there's an emotion, but it wasn't, my brain didn't allow it to link to anything. And that felt really kind of true in a way, that it's like, oh, so much in life where we have we think someone pisses us off or something, and it's like, it's where I've been questioning anyway, it's the body is telling us how to feel, and then our brain's just connecting it to a moment, a scenario that's happening in our life at that moment. But it might not be that scenario at all that's making us feel that way. It's our body screaming for something or telling us something. Yeah. And then we just use our mind and make this connection that might not even be true. Yeah. So it's just interesting to witness it in that moment of like, oh, the body's feeling this way and it's making my emotions come. But I don't feel that like in my heart, but it's just there. So I was like, oh, what an experience.
It's almost like you're projecting past trauma onto someone else, just being a mirror of that for you.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily them. It's just something within you. It's your own shit you've got to deal with.
Exactly. Completely. And
that's amazing. That's such a cool story.
It was just interesting to fully experience it firsthand. And I was like, okay, cool. This is like tying everything together, because you could do all the like WEX and Strongfit training in the world, and there's stuff that you're not gonna, and this isn't me like trying to promote psychedelics or whatever, it's everyone's on their journey, but it's like I've done enough in the past where I've got close to this, and then a few new things have clicked into place for me, where the timing of this and Mathias with his experience with body's work as well, it just came together, and it's like, right, there's something to this. And it's like you can go to Peru and do a massive dose and you will go deep, and you know, we didn't do enough to go to that super deep level where you shoot out your body and you know the ego death and all that. I was still there, but it was like a right layer where a level where you can deal with some body stuff and actually make progress. It's like when the mind holds the body in attention, right? And like if I'm working out at the gym and I've done like microdoses and gone to the gym, I can't access the same like relaxed state that if I'm doing a microdose at home. And I can get much better release work when I'm in that relaxed state. And when you do the right dose and you're in a comfortable environment, you completely relax. Your mind's not holding the tension of the body. You can get to such a depth in the body. You can tune into like real fine connections. There was literally like, there was like a vibration, like a frequency in the body part when I'd make it hold tension, say. I'd make my glute hold tension, or my lower back hold tension from like bridging. And I could feel the vibration, and if I gave it too much pressure, it wouldn't be there, and I gave it too little, it wouldn't be there. And there was the right amount of weight where it would just vibrate, and I could even feel it up in my head. And I would just hold that and let the breath do whatever it wanted. And it was just like this re-establishing connection happening. And you just cannot, maybe if you're like the highest level meditator, yogi, you can get to that. But there was just something that I've never accessed without those. And with the ayahuasca as opposed to mushrooms, it just felt so much more like, and I've only done it once before, but it felt so much more motherly and loving and feminine and supportive, and one of the best for me. Mm-hmm. And it was literally, we kept picturing like each moment, each body part, it would be like a build up, and then the brain would go a certain way and it'd be like dark, or it'd sob. And then eventually, just when you like think that's like, you kind of lost completely in that emotion, like the body relaxes and you breathe, and then you come back around and you're like, oh, you start laughing. And it was like an infinity symbol. And it was also reminding me like, you can feel great in this moment, and then the next moment someone else is going to come along, and then you can feel down, and the next moment that's going to come along. And, you know, eventually we're all going to die anyway. It's like just so that maybe is like, oh, but then it's also, you got to laugh at that as well. Yeah. So it's like, I just keep getting, you know, since the rope and everything, the logo's the infinity symbol, I keep seeing this appear in life in these moments when you're like, just when you're lost in the depth of that, and that's the seasons and everything, isn't it? Just when summer feels like it's just going to be here forever, you forget what winter feels like, it starts to get colder. Just when winter, you're in the depth of winter and it feels like you just can't remember what summer feels like, and then you have that spring morning and it's nostalgic the first time it comes around, and it's just, I just felt that with all this stuff, but it was just nice to have that experience from nowhere, the complete contrast to Strongfit, but also the complete complement to Strongfit training, you know, and it's dealing with the emotions, but using the plant medicines to get in there. So I definitely want to explore that further. And at the same time, we were going to film talking about it and share it like the day after. And I don't want to do that stuff just to talk and share it. I feel like this audience that's here, if you're listening to an hour-long podcast of us talking, they're already pretty invested, and it's like, I'm not shouting about it, but I'm not here to like go shouting on YouTube, everyone needs to go, this is how you're going to heal your body. It's like, I'm exploring, and I feel like I'm making progress. It's connecting and innovating, putting the different practices together. So that was the Saturday night.
It's funny you say that because I'm reading a book at the moment called The Body Keeps Score. I told you about it.
Yes, yeah.
And that's all about trauma. And he talks about 3 ways of unlocking trauma. And one of the routes is through medicine. And he says that basically it allows you to go relive experiences from within your body and do it in such a safe space that you can undo that trauma.
Yeah.
And when you were saying that, I was like, well, that's exactly what Tim's just done. Yeah.
What are the other 2?
So he says the other 2 are bottom down and top up. So the one is, reliving it, talking it through.
Yeah.
And then I think that's top down, and then bottom up is showing people that like the world is it's kind of a safe place.
Okay.
So physically taking them through experiences which might trigger them. So say someone's got trauma because they got beaten up by someone from Holland, for example.
Yeah.
So anytime they hear someone with that accent, it like triggers the trauma in them.
Yeah.
Well, it would be taking them to someone with that accent and showing them, look, you can have this amazing experience with someone with that with the same thing that would have caused the trauma previously.
Okay.
And then what he says is you can layer the medicine on top of that. And he hasn't talked about what medicine yet, but you can tell from the way he's phrasing the book that he's sort of gone through the typical, he's gone through the typical medical system, and he's come out the other side with his own observations. So reading between the lines, I think the medicines he's going to be referring to are plant medicines like you're talking about.
Yeah, bang on. And Strongfit talked about that actually, like that method of, what do you call it? Where you like give someone a small dose of something to help them. I forget the word for it, but it was like, rather than like blast them with it. That's what he talks about Disney December. One of his things is to do cardio, slow, like low impact cardio, while listening to Disney women songs like Moana and Let It Go and all that. So you go on a treadmill and do like 30 minutes or 50 minutes listening to these because they're supposed to put you in such a relaxed state to like, because it's about hitting the extremes. It's all about hitting the extremes. To cancel out the full-on intensity training, the other end of the spectrum is listening to, Disney soundtracks while on a treadmill going really slow, just a light jog pace. Yeah. And he said exposure therapy, that's what he called it. So someone said, I told my friends about it and they wanted to like smash the headphones or whatever after like 20 minutes, listen to that. And I feel... Similarly, I'm like, I don't want to listen to like, that's not going to calm me down. I don't like
that's
that
the first thing I thought is that's going to be so annoying.
Yeah, it's so annoying. And then he said, no, that's your issue. You need to fix. That's something you got anger issues. If you're going to shoot up because you can't listen to Let It Go, then that's your issues. And in my head, I'm like, that's just terrible. It's not other music. And he's like, no, that's on you. And so maybe it is. Maybe it is on like maybe we should be able to listen to that music enough. But I feel like I'm more of like, don't trust Disney and trust that there's some brainwashing going on in that, when they're playing that to kids. That's my angle of like, I don't want to listen to it like that way. And the fact it's rinsed. But
I was going to say, I suppose it's like, it could be conditioning in a way, because if you told my goddaughter, you've got to, walk for the next hour listening to Moana soundtrack, she'd be the happiest little girl alive. So
it just reminds me of The Simpsons though. What was that when they played Join the Army backwards? Did you ever see that one?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Like there was a song, but it was just saying Join the Army backwards. And it was like brainwashing. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know that Disney's not doing that kind of shit in there. Yeah. In their thing.
That's probably another podcast in itself.
Yeah. So that was Saturday night, and then so I went to bed that night.
What time did you get to sleep after all that?
We didn't check phones. I reckon like 3 o'clock.
Okay, so you're well rested, ready for day 2.
So then he was like, we're here tomorrow 9:30. We're talking about diet. So I was like, I'm not going to set my alarm because I'm making an executive decision for my life, where I'm not going to set an alarm to wake me up. I'm going to wake up when I wake up naturally. Recovery is more important than listening to diet tomorrow. I've listened to the talk on the protocol, and I've experimented with the protocol as well. And there's definitely something to it, but so I chose sleep and ended up being an hour late and apologising. They were fine with it. But I think that was a smart decision.
So did you miss diet altogether?
I got there for the last half an hour.
Okay. And they were just talking about the protocol, was that it?
They're talking about the protocol, and they were saying how it goes hand in hand with the training and how it's a system. With the intensity, and carbs put you in a sympathetic state. So you got to time it. That's like the morning or whatever, and then although I didn't hear him talk about that. I've only heard that on the podcast, so I don't know where he's at now. But talking about you need to eat fats but not nuts. People eat too much nuts, but everyone's okay with dairy, but they say people that do this protocol end up being able to tolerate dairy because your nervous system can't tolerate dairy when your nervous system's too amped up, and when your nervous system relaxes because of the right training, the right diet, then you can tolerate more dairy. So maybe there's some truth to that. But
I've experienced that in my own life.
Yeah.
So, for example, if we look at the stress bucket, I think I've talked about this before on the podcast, but I'll just cover it quickly. So, imagine you've got a bucket, right, and you're filling that up with stress, and then you're also, hopefully, if you've got good holistic health practices, you're also, labeling it out, some of that stress out. And the whole thing is, you're always going to have stresses in life. Training's a stressor, shit stuff happens. You're going to get stressed out. That's life. So you're filling that bucket up. The idea is you want to have good sleep. You want to have like a meditation practice, breathwork practice, these sort of things. And that helps you, ladle, stress water out of the bucket effectively. Yeah. So you're just managing your levels. But what happens is, sort of the average human, the stress level is so high because they're not doing any of these practices. They're working every hour under the sun, and all the other reasons. And then when they eat dairy, because they maybe have a dairy intolerance, they're eating foods when they're stressed out. They're not breaking the food down properly. The food's getting through their gut lining in a bigger format than it should be. Yeah. Body's attacking it like it's a virus, and then so they build up a dairy intolerance. Then if you add that in on top of this high stress bucket, it's tipping it over the edge. Yeah. And people have a reaction to it. Okay. Whereas if your stress is managed, which is what they're saying, if you follow the protocol, you do the training, stress is managed, you can now eat dairy and it's not an issue for you. Yeah,
just a fuel source for them. Yeah, so they went in on that a bit. And then what training did we do after that? We did some sandbag squats. We did... Andrew came and did a talk on training with nose breathing. And so we did a circuit. We did like a 400 meter sandbag carry, 1K run, 400 meter sandbag carry, all nose breathing. And then you finish with burpees until you're as fast as you can until you're forced to mouth breathe. And so that was a really good circuit. And it was interesting because I finished that set and it was intense, but I finished and you feel like 10 minutes later you can go again. Because they said it keeps you at like 85% pace, and it's just interesting because the session the day before, I was still smashed from the session the day before. So I got through the weekend, but when you're mouth breathing, they said they'd have like business CEOs in there at 6 a.m. and they'd smash them and they'd message them at work in the meeting at like 10 a.m. saying they can't concentrate. They're smashed from the session. So then they implemented the nose breathing. It's like you can do a whole hour session purely nose breathing, in the nose, out the mouth, or in the nose, out the nose. And finish, and you can, if you still have more to do, you have to look after a family, a child might need your attention. That's the way to train, and that really resonated with me. So I want to start doing more sessions like that, where you can up the intensity, but you can't ever go past what you're able to maintain nose breathing. And I think for building a base level, and when you're new to training, especially we're still new to this shit, it's a great way to apply. So I think that was a massive takeaway, was just to experience that firsthand and to learn that.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. When he was talking about the the Disney December, is that
that's nose breathing? Yeah,
that's the constraint he uses for that. Is as long as you can nose breathe, you keep going. Yeah, you don't want to be working at more than a nose breathing pace.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, cool. That's one for that. And then we did some deadlifts with sandbags, and that's when they were getting us. Like I was deadlifting. And I was thinking about straight back. Even when I'm not thinking about it, I'm thinking it's so deeply embedded in me to try and have perfect form. And they were like, no, we need to go heavier. Until eventually I would stand up and I'd have to like use my glutes and my lower back, and I'd have to put pressure on my obliques to lift it. And I was like, man, it's like, this is when I've realized it's like stuff I already apply to like standing up, and even in Mindful Warrior, there's some principles there that are completely in this, but I've never applied it to strength training because I'm like trying to mimic a guy I see lifting like Matt Fraser or someone who's already got his system set up, his tension is like right for that kind of position. So it's like trying to copy someone's position rather than feel your own inner tensions is such a dangerous road for injuries. That's going to lead to that. And that's what we're all facing with and correcting now. So when I felt that, I was like, and it goes back to the way Savage Protocol trains, taking the slack out of the system. Yeah. But it's like training that into a human is is a real skill. So it's like if anyone can't deadlift, they'll just get them to do sandbag deadlifts for like a month before they give them a barbell again. And it will help the body find the right technique, to find the form, to find the tension, and then you can give them a barbell, and they're not going to mash themselves up as much, or they're going to it's going to teach them the form basically. So I'm so keen that I've got a sandbag here to just do like rounds of sandbag squats and sandbag deadlifts, because strength is a skill, and you can be an athlete, but coming from all these other sports, think I can just copy someone the way someone lifts, and it just doesn't work for strength training. And that's why I've dealt with a few physical injuries and things.
Well, I think like everyone's makeup's different as well. We've all got different levers and stuff like that, and just copying what someone else does, your body makeup might be completely different. Like just like with diet, how we say everyone needs the ultimate goal is becoming intuitive, so you can tell what your body needs in that moment.
Yeah.
And it's the same with training. You need to work out how you should be lifting that weight. But you go to the gym and everyone's trying to attain exactly the same form.
Yeah, and most coaches are trying to like coach you into form rather than to feel the tensions in your body. And that's the thing, man. It really is a bit of a minefield, because you get into the biomechanics, the work method, the go-to training, and it's like put your feet this way, green dots, heels away, and all this stuff. And it's like visually you're trying to replicate what the optimum athletes do, but internally, if that's not the way your body functions right now, just cueing the body to copy the visuals isn't going to work. That has to come from the natural mechanics and tensioning within the body. So that's the whole minefield, is letting go of this, like trying to have perfect form on your running technique without that coming from the inner work of releasing the obliques and the psoas and all that stuff. And I'm new to that. Like that angle of thinking now is like, I've got to delve that, and I've got to put hours and hours in to that practice. And I'm doing baby conditioning, where I'm lying down and just imagine how a baby works, and lying on my belly and feeling how that makes my breath change. When I lie on my stomach and lift my chest and hips, my breath becomes more panicky and restricted. And you picture a baby on their stomach, they're completely relaxed. And so I'm like putting myself in these positions where I'm uncomfortable, I'm not breathing right, but it's not damaging to lie in your stomach. So I can just stay there until my breathing does become more relaxed, and train this. So I'm working my methods of opening the body that were more in sync with nature, and looking back to our roots of everything a baby did when it was crawling on the ground, got it to be strong enough to walk. And then it just needed to learn to balance and a bit more stability. But the strength comes from the core. So I'm going back to that, and Paul Check goes back to that kind of stuff. So I'm having my own explorations with that. And I explained I put a video on my YouTube community page about baby conditioning, just explaining that, like, if you iron a shirt, you don't do 10 reps with your eyes closed left to right. Like, you look where the wrinkles are and you iron the wrinkles. And it's the same with the body. You can't just do 10, it will help, but you just to make a class of 20 people do 10 sets of this and 10 reps of that. When everyone's got different bodies internally, the real skill then is to tune into where are the wrinkles in my body, where's the slack, where are the muscles that aren't connected in my body, and how can I teach them to connect. And I really think learning strength training as a skill teaches you which muscles need to fire for which task, and they relate hinging mechanism of a deadlift to running, because that's a hinging motion of each side at a time. And it's like, if you can't deadlift and fire the right muscles, then it's going to be a lot harder to run. So it's like, I want to master my ability with the lifting to fire the right muscles to then. But it's like, which coach do you go to other than these guys? Because if they're just trying to just make you copy form, that's dangerous as well. So it's like, the coach has to know that you're allowed to do that form while still training the right muscles to fire. So it's like,
it's a minefield. But I think that's the cool thing, is like, we're setting out to really explore this, right? And hopefully, we're going to be able to start sharing, the outcome of our explorations with people, and it will help them, give them a bit of a shortcut on this journey. Because not everyone's in the lucky position that we are, where we're spending all our time exploring.
We are
stuff.
spending all our time exploring stuff.
But what you just said actually reminded me of one of the things Paul Check says. Is he says stretching's like tuning a guitar. So a lot of people will just go, and this is one of the things with yoga, and especially athletes doing yoga for like more mobility. you're just going in and you're stretching everything, every muscle. Well, he said some muscles don't need to be stretched. The tight muscles may need to be stretched.
Yeah.
But certain weak muscles need to be strengthened.
Tightened, yeah.
So it's like tuning a guitar.
Does this need to go up or down? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a great point. And where do you... Yeah, it is a complete minefield. But we're on that path, and I guess if you're listening, you're probably on that too, and we can hope to help guide you as well. But like, let's talk about the shoes. Like you've been running in the barefoot shoes.
Yeah.
I've been through the path of like Vivos, and I still love Zeros a lot. Like I like the shoes for the right time when I'm feeling strong.
Mm-hmm.
But I run in Hokas at the moment, and I told you if you could grab the most comfortable sneakers you have from home and bring them, and you did, and your running feels better.
So much better. And I thought, so when I bought the Vivos, I thought it was going to be fine because I walk around barefoot all the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll walk around barefoot all the time. I'll be chilled. And
Running is so high impact. Yeah.
I'd run, and
Achilles.
within, my Achilles and my shins would be in agony within like the first 500 meters.
Fuck.
And then the whole time all I'm thinking about is my shins and my Achilles.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, just bring back some comfortable. I've just brought some Nikes back, bigger heel, more cushioning.
Yeah.
And for where I'm at now with my running, we're doing the Marines, trying to do that.
Yeah.
My focus is on increasing my cardio. And also we're working on some running technique because from all the years of rugby and barbell lifting, I'm pretty stiff upper body.
Yeah.
So I'm learning to like try and, run with more this figure 8 pattern.
Yeah.
And I think they're my main focuses with running at the moment is the increasing my cardio, increasing my running, improving my running technique, and sorting that out can wait for now.
That's exactly it. Yeah. If you people talk about the ground up approach, and I get that, strengthen the feet and up, but I really think like it comes from the core, and it's like the more we can do strengthen the core and get the muscles to fire right, that we'll have access to barefoot running. Mm-hmm. But to just force the barefoot running, because we get the logic of it, and our ego goes, humans evolved barefoot, we need to be barefoot, and it's like I get that, but you try and do that for a few years, you just cause more issues. Yeah. So it's like respecting where your body's at. You spent 20 odd years, 30 odd years in a certain footwear, to just throw that footwear away when your body's kind of like tensioned and mechanically built around that footwear. It's like, okay, you got to choose your battles. Yeah. And it's like, yes, I think walking in barefoot shoes is not going to damage most people, but but running, just going to barefoot running, and some people are fine, and some people actually they do barefoot running shoes and the body just gets stronger through it and it adapts, and I've seen that in people. Yeah. But I think I don't know if me and you, for our histories in sport or the size of us or what it is, but it's like respecting the footwear is like, okay, that's a big one. These are all learning curves. There's true spirals. Like I always say, true spirals, man. It's like you have one truth, then you go to the opposite side, then you become conscious of that, and you come back, and it's just like we'll end up running barefoot again, but we've got to come through this hard work to get there.
Yeah, I think it's there's priorities when it comes to training. You often see people, and they'll decide to start a new program or whatever. They'll be feeling inspired, and they'll have 10 goals running at the same time. And Charles Poliquin always said this: you can't ride 2 horses with one arse. Like it's just like it's worth picking a goal and saying that's my priority at the moment. That's what I'm trying to do. Get it done, learn that, embed that, and then pick your next goal. And for me, for now, just getting that Marines test done and improving my cardio, that's the goal.
For the running, yeah. Big up. Cool, man. What you working on? And thanks for listening to that. We'll move on to like just some chat. What you working on?
What we're working on at the moment?
Yeah.
So some big sort of developments with Ape at the minute. So we got 3 new products in the pipeline. I'll keep those close to my chest for this week. Yeah. But 3 new products in the pipeline, and hopefully a US launch on the cards.
Yeah.
Very soon. So foot to floor with all the business stuff.
Busy. And
really busy. And you know where we're at in terms of the training.
Yeah.
I know you got some exciting news in terms of Way of the Rope.
Yeah. I just filmed, me and Harvey and Peter just finished filming the intermediate course, or the intermediate guide, or Squire. I worked out, or I had a look that in Knights, because I like relating it to sword fighting or whatever, but you have the page, then they progress to the Squire, and then they progress to the Knight. So Squire is like the intermediate level. So I've kind of got the Squire course of rope, rolling ropes, all filmed, almost finished editing. Then I've got to do the voiceover with my main man Lewis. But hopefully a week today, or less than a week, July 1st, something like that, I'll be ready to launch. Cool. So for all of the people that roll rope that are listening, upgrades come in to your practice. We got sneak, underhand sneak. There's like 6 different flows in there that I really like, that program different things into the body, different sequences that come together. Cheetah tail, double dragon, and just some nice visuals once again. But that's captured. That should be ready to go shortly after this gets released. And then also, I'd definitely say, I'm going to link it in the description, but if you want more content from me, my YouTube community, I did the video of the baby conditioning last week. I've just done a going into red light. I just showed you the little hack on the phone.
Yeah, that's cool.
To make your screen go completely red, so it takes all the blue light out. You can't, night mode doesn't quite do it, where it takes all the blue light out. So I'm sharing that kind of content, and I've just filmed a session of the thing that I share on that community because I want to experiment, and they're all open to the experimenting before I share publicly and say this is fact, or I've made mistakes in the past where I'm like shouting about something and I was wrong, as we and I try and I show my working in that community. So I'm going to link that below if you want to follow me on YouTube and join that membership community. That'd be cool as well. But yeah, stay tuned for the rope as well, and that is, I'll stress it again, the rope is such a wonderful tool, isn't it?
Amazing tool.
Yeah.
And it won't actually just bring it back to the podcast when you were talking about doing the doing stuff where you're doing all nose breathing. Yeah. That's a great exercise for it. You just get on the rope and just do nose breathing on the rope.
That's a great point. We'll play with that. And we were out last night. We went for a dip at 7:00. We're out till 9:30 in the river, and then we went camp. We did a wild camp after it, just in bivvy bags in the fresh air. But Max was out with us, and
did he camp?
He didn't camp, but he joined us at the river, and he's progressing, man. He's really good with the rope, and he's saying he feels it in his running, and he's like, bro, it's happening, it's happening. Yeah. And these guys are getting it. Harry loves the rope. Yeah. So these rugby boys who are a bit more open and not afraid of how they're going to be looked at by others for rolling rope are feeling it in their practice. So it's a matter of time now, and there's other stuff with that. But for those who are ready, the rope practice, wayoftherope.co.uk. If you want to look into that more, it's going to change the game, man. Once runners realise how it affects running, then I think that's going to be the tipping point for rope around the world. But yeah, cool guys. Thanks for listening. I hope you got something out of that podcast. Cheers, Josh.
Yeah, thanks guys. And if you want any more from me, my Instagram is ape_nutrition. Website is apenutrition.co.uk.
Yeah.
And we've got a discount code for listeners to the podcast. It's Rediscovering Human.
Yes. We just did a session. We did the car session.
Yeah.
Where we push and pull my car around and pull the rope and drag it and crawl. Just using a car. Really simple session. Pete filmed it. That's going to be, those that watch on YouTube, we put out the running session last week. Filmed by Pete. I thought it was a really nice video Pete made for us. Yeah, so if you've watched that already, But on the YouTube, we're going to be active sharing our training and the podcast, and we think that's a good formula. But we just did the session and we banged some
retro keto fuel.
Yeah, I've got an old wrapper. I'll put that in the bin. Don't worry, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Cool.
See you all next time.
Cheers.
Peace.